Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Guajardo, and today I'll be introducing to you the invertebrate members of our own phylum, the chordates. We often think of chordates strictly as vertebrates, like fish, birds, and humans. But today, we'll be looking at two fascinating invertebrate subphyla, Urochordata, commonly known as tourniquets or sea squirts, and the Cephalochordata, known as lancelets. Let's dive right in by looking at what actually makes these animals chordates and meeting a few different species. Combined, there are roughly 3,035 known marine species within these two groups, with tourniquets making up the vast majority. What unites them and groups them with us is that they possess the four defining chordate trait at some point in their life cycle: a notochord, a dorsal hollow nerve cord, a pharyngeal slits, and a post-anal tail. On this slide, you can see the diversity within the group. On the left is a very familiar typical species, the common sea squirt. But on the right is our unusual species, the predatory tunicate, which looks almost like a deep sea Venus flytrap. Knowing that and knowing how they look, you might be wondering, how do these bizarre and often stationary animals manage to feed themselves? That brings us into their feeding habits. The vast majority of these animals are filter feeders, also known as suspension feeders. They constantly pump ocean water through their bodies, and they use their pharyngeal slits as a sort of filtering basket and combining with a specialized organ called the endocyle. Now, this endocyle secretes a sticky mucus net that traps the tiny suspended plankton and organic particles, which are then swept into a digestive tract. Now, a fun fact about the endocyle is that it is actually the evolutionary precursor to the human thyroid gland. However, now, feeding methods can adapt to extreme environments. As you saw with the predatory tourniquet on the last slide, some species living in the nutrient poor deep sea have lost their ability to filter feed. Instead, they use a large mouth-like hood to actively trap and digest some of the small swimming plankton and organic particles. Now, this specialized feeding equipment is just one part of their internal anatomy. Let's take a closer look at how their bodies are really organized. Both tourniquets and lancelets are bilateral coamulates, meaning that they have a true body cavity and bilateral symmetry. Though in adult tourniquets, that symmetry can be a little harder to see. While they share many basic body plans, their circulatory systems are a major point of difference. Tourniquets have an open circulatory system. This means that they don't have true capillaries, so their blood directly bathes their tissues and large sinuses. Now, lancelets, on the other hand, have a closed circulatory system, similar to vertebrates, where the blood is contained entirely within vessels. However, lancelets lack a true centralized heart, and they rely instead on contractile blood vessels to pump blood. Now, while their internal systems are relatively simple compared to vertebrates, their life cycles and development are incredibly dynamic. Their reproductive strategies differ significantly. Lancelets have a separate male and female sexes and rely on external fertilization, releasing their gametes into the water column where larvae develop and remain free swimming their whole lives. Now, tourniquets are mostly hermaphrodites, meaning that a single individual produces both the egg and the sperm. Their life cycle is famous for a process called retrogressive metamorphosis. They start as free swimming tadpole like larvae that clearly display all four chordate traits. But when it's time to mature, they swim down, cement themselves headfirst to a rock, and completely absorb their own tail and notochord to become the stationary filter feeding adults, as you can see on the right. Now, because they reproduce in such large numbers and filter so much water, they have a tremendous impact on their habitats. Ecologically, both groups are exclusively marine. Because they are highly efficient filter feeders, they act almost like the ocean's vacuum cleaners. They process massive volumes of water daily, which helps regulate plankton blooms and keeps the water column clear. They also serve as a vital link in the marine food web. By eating microscopic plankton and converting it into tissue, they transfer that energy up in the food chain, serving as a crucial prey source for a wide variety of fish, sea stars, and even sea turtles. Now, their ecological role is undeniable, but their place in our own evolutionary history is what truly makes them rock stars of the biological world. If we want to understand the origins of vertebrates, we have to look at these animals. Lancelets represent the earliest diverging lineage of the chordate family tree. Studying them gives us a glimpse into what the ancestral chordate might have looked like over 500 million years ago. Even more fascinating is the modern genetic and geomic studies have proven that tourniquets, despite looking like a simple sea sponge as adults, are the closest living invertebrate related to vertebrates. They are more closely related to you and me than they are to lancelets. Now, given how closely related we are to tourniquets on a genetic level, it shouldn't be a surprise that these animals can have profound impacts on human medicine and society. These organisms impact humans in both incredible beneficially in, excuse me. These organisms impact humans in both incredibly beneficial and highly problematic ways. In the medical field, certain sea squirts like the Caribbean mangrove tourniquet naturally produces a complex chemical compound. Scientists have synthesized one of these compounds into an FDA approved chemotherapy drug called trabectedin, which is used to treat soft tissue sarcomas. On a negative side, many tourniquet species are aggressive invasive pests. Because they grow rapidly in dense colonies, they are notorious for biofouling, growing thickly over ship hulls, docks, and aquatic nets, which causes millions of dollars in economic damage and increased fuel costs for the maritime industry. Now, to wrap things up, I want to leave you with one of the most bizarre and unexpected physiological quirks found in the animal kingdom. I want to highlight the tourniquet's hearts. Most animals, including us, have a unidirectional heartbeat. It pumps blood in one continuous loop. But a tunicate has a reversing heart. If you look at the transparent species, you can physically watch the perisonic heart beating. It will pump blood in one direction for about 1 to 3 minutes, stop completely for a few seconds, and then the pacemaker cells on the opposite end take over, reversing the pumping direction entirely. This is an incredibly rare biological adaptation that ensures oxygen is evenly distributed throughout their open circulatory system. Now, it's a perfect example of how even the simple animals have complex and brilliant adaptations. Now, here are all my references. Here are all my image references for all the slides. Here are my scientific references for all the slides 7, 8, and 9, and as well as the appendix used. Thank you so much for your time and for hearing me. And again, thank you so much. Have a good day.